Hello, this is Arash Vasugi. I wanted to share with you one of the most impactful ideas that changed my life. And it is on attitude. I speak a lot about it. I get a lot of people who have told me how much my lessons on attitude have changed their lives. And I want to go a little deeper in it today. Years ago, I was working with my dear friend and greatest mentor, Bob Proctor. And I would tell him, I'd be always open with him, and I'd say, I'm really stuck right now. And he'd always say, well, it's your attitude. And he said, anybody can have a great attitude when things are going well. He said, the true professionals in life, the true pros, have an even better attitude when things were not going as well. And he said, Arash, don't feel bad about it. He said, but you have to learn this. I had to learn it. He said, my mentor taught me that. You know, my story is, before I met Bob, I was really wanting to change my life. For 3 years, I was studying literally until 2 in the morning. I couldn't stop watching his video, other people's videos. I would be going to seminars, but nothing was working. And I lost my job. Bob and I got connected through a mutual acquaintance, and I got mentored by him. But my results started changing significantly. But when things were going really well, I had a great attitude. But when things were going not so well, I was really letting the outside control my attitude. And when Bob taught me about the pros, and all the time he used to tell me, you want to be a pro. There's so many amateurs out there. You really got to turn into a pro. And anything he told me, I would implement right away. So I went on a 2-year dive of attitude. Now, I wanted to share this with you. So what I did is I really put a lot of attention on this. I got this book, this is my favorite book of all time. It's called The Science of Getting Rich with Wallace Wattles. And there's a few paragraphs in here that I rewrote every day. But I would read these 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs 5 times a day. And all of a sudden, my attitude started changing. I really started getting in control of my thinking, and I started creating discipline. If anything was out of harmony with what I want, I started saying no to. And I wouldn't just say no, it was a hard no. I want to read this to you. Wattles says, I have said that an individual gets rich by doing things in a certain way. In order to do so, you must be able to think in a certain way. Your ways of doing things is a direct result of the way you think about things. To do things in a way you want to do them, you will have to acquire the ability to think the way you want to think. This is the first step towards getting rich. To think what you want is to think truth regardless of appearances. I would stop myself just in those 2 paragraphs and I said, think truth. That means think what I wanted regardless of the outside. That's attitude right there. That is control. He says, you have the natural and inherent power to think what you want to think, but it requires far more effort to do so than it does to think thoughts which are suggested by appearances. To think according to appearances is easy. To think truth, that's what we want, regardless of the outside, is laborious and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work you have to perform. Now, I want you to pay attention to this. He says there is no labor from which most people shrink as they do from that of sustaining consecutive thought. It is the hardest work in the world. This is especially true when truth is contrary to appearances. Every appearance in the visible world tends to produce a corresponding form in the mind which observes it. This can only be prevented by holding the thought of the truth. Now, if you're sitting there right now saying, I can really relate to Arash. When things are going well, I feel really good. But when things are not going as well, I don't feel as good. I challenge you to read from the first chapter. It's called The First Principles of the Science of Getting Rich, what I just read to you. And read it 5 times a day. Write it out by hand once a day. Why we want to write it, when we write, it burns the idea in our subconscious mind. Writing creates feelings, feelings create actions, actions create results. See, my whole life, until I got mentored properly, I was too physical. I was always letting whatever was going on the outside control the inside. When my life really changed is when I started being in control. I want you to think about what it is that you really want right now. Now, are you letting the outside reject it and say, no, I can't do that. My history shows I've never done it. Or are you willing to do what I did? Are you willing, if necessary, to take a 2-year dive on attitude? Now, listen, I didn't need to take 2 years. I did it because I was sick and tired of being high and low. And I realized the true pros, you would never know whether they had the best day or the worst day. You would never know about it. They were always in control. When you gain self-control, you create so much power inside of you. That power that we all have access to comes from the essence of who we are, that our Creator has given us, that we can develop. Now, I found a way that I've taught this to thousands of people to do it, and you could do it, but you want to really go deep with this. Now, I want you to think about, what do I really want? That is going to be where you want to get your attitude aligned with. When we say think truth regardless of appearances, we think what we want no matter what's on the outside. Now, in the beginning, it takes a great deal of discipline to start saying a hard no to anything that is in contradiction to what you want. But I will tell you, when you fall in love with your want, and how you fall in love with it is you think about it over and over and over and over again, and you get emotionally involved in that want, you're going to see how quickly your life starts transforming. And it always starts with attitude. What is attitude? Attitude is our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. I really encourage you to take this test and do it for the next 90 days. You don't need to do it for 2 years. Do it for 90 days and comment below on how this has impacted you. Now, if you do it for 1 day but miss the next day, start at day 1. And make a rule that you're never going to miss 2 days in a row. Do it for 90 days. I promise you, this one idea that transformed my life will transform yours. Thank you.